Hello, everybody. Let's grab your attention, please. Yeah, I'm Michael. Pleased to meet you all, and I'm Wayne's son. And just wanted to thank you all for coming today, and for being friends and family members to my dad. Appreciate you coming here. I'm just going to give a quick bit of housekeeping, just so everyone's on the same page about what'll happen. First of all, washrooms, if anyone needs to, are just down, like out this door and down this hallway behind these mirrors here. You've all given your orders for the food. Thank you so much. Food will come at 1:30, which is in half an hour. So we're going to try and get through a couple of the tributes to my father, and then we'll take a little recess for lunch. We'll eat, have dessert, and then there might be a few more to get through after lunch. We're reading some tributes from folks that weren't able to be here. So myself and Sarah will read some of those. My partner Sarah, who most of you have probably met. Yeah. And then after all of that, we'll open up the floors to others if they want to say anything about Wayne. So that's the, I guess that's the general overview of what's happening today. So thanks for coming. There's also tea and coffee over there. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Great. So yeah, I'll start with my tribute, and then I think Donna will speak after. Oh, right there. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, the other thing I forgot to mention is that we have a Zoom set up here with some family members also. So yeah, just be aware there's a recording happening. Yeah. Behave yourself. Yeah. Behave yourselves. Exactly. Sorry. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. So today we gather to honor the memory of Wayne Hall, husband, brother, father, uncle, and friend. Wayne was a man who meant a great deal to all of us. As most of you gathered here today probably know, he wasn't much for grand displays or the spotlight. He was a private man, and I imagine a gathering such as this with all of us focused on him entirely would have probably stressed him out. That being said, given that his favorite people are here, I think he would have really enjoyed seeing you all come to celebrate his life. Born in 1948, the son of Jim and Doris Hall, he was born with a strong sense of personal responsibility and leadership. The eldest son of a military family, he and his siblings, Dave, Donna, and Marty, moved all over Canada in their youth, from Ontario to London, Chilliwack, and Calgary. He was a responsible kid. He took education seriously and excelled in school, putting himself through an undergraduate degree in the arts and earning a master's degree in geography at UBC, while at the same time making a living in men's fashion, selling suits at Tip Top Tailors. He was known as a night owl who had mastered the art of the late night snack of scrambled egg sandwiches. He loved music, especially Gordon Lightfoot, the Beatles, and Cat Stevens, who you heard earlier. And he even recorded his own songs, playing guitar with his musical friends at UBC. He recorded some songs also, which I actually haven't heard, but I imagine they were in the same genres. Yeah. He sported a thick black mustache that he had his entire life. I'd never seen my dad without a mustache, and my mom recently confided that she had also never seen his father without a mustache. So I presume he came born with it. He met Carrie while at UBC, and they started their lives together, first in Ottawa and then settling here in Edmonton. Wayne lived a life of quiet strength. He was an intensely practical man, always organized and prepared in his own affairs, yet always willing to lend a hand to friends and family. Anyone who spent time with him and got to know him knew the depth of his care and his generosity. He had two children, myself and my sister, Kristen, who's on the Zoom. Growing up, we could always count on my father to be a provider in the truest sense of the word. He was a hard worker, made sacrifices, and put his family first. He was very successful in his job in the federal government. And I know that he turned down multiple promotions so as to not disrupt his family life. There was a quiet pride in him, in a sense that he didn't need to boast about his accomplishments because he knew where his priorities lay. His actions as a father, husband, and provider spoke louder than words ever could. He coached the soccer team when I was young. He taught us to skate and play hockey on the lake after school. He taught me to run long distance. And he never complained when I borrowed his Walkman and made off with his favorite tapes for weeks at a time. He would always encourage our interests, whether that was computers or Lego or trampolines or whatever. He was often serious, but when he did laugh, it was deep and from the belly and full of joy, the sort of laugh that made it impossible not to laugh along with him. I'll tell a little story here. We were once playing a pretty competitive game of charades. And as you know how that gets, he drew a card. We were down. My dad and I were on the same team. We were down. We were like way down in points and we needed this one bad. And pulled a card and he looks at me and he goes, and immediately I was like, Xena Princess Warrior. And yeah, we still laugh about that to that day. It's just when he did come out like that, it was incredible. Yeah. But as you know, there was much more to my father than a provider for his children. He found joy, challenge, and fulfillment in his passion for painting. I'm sure many of us here have been lucky enough to see his work or likely received one as a gift. My father found peace, satisfaction, and satisfaction in capturing these Canadian landscapes. And through his art, he brought them to life, capturing light, serenity, beauty, and the vastness of the landscapes he loved so much. He wasn't much for adventure per se. He never traveled to Europe, and save a handful of trips for family vacations, he preferred to stay close to home. But he loved the forests of the Canadian Rockies, so long as they didn't contain any bears. The expansive vistas of the prairies and the coastal waves of British Columbia, so long as he wasn't in the boat. And perhaps it's just my own perspective, but it seems to me that he got to explore the world through his paintings. He often painted marinas and bustling city streets and vast vistas, as he said on his business cards, imaginary landscapes. So his paintings were a reflection of who he was and how he engaged with the world. Deep appreciation for the quiet moments in life. I'm particularly drawn to this photo, or this actually was a photo that he took at our family farm years ago. The photo is actually through a screen door. So there's like this sort of like opaque quality to it. And then these beautiful flowers and like soft focus in the background. It's incredible. So he had this way of, I don't know, just like noticing small things, which I thought was really beautiful. Wayne had a deep appreciation for value, not just in the material sense, but the way he lived his life. This really shone in his love of thrift. He had a special talent for finding hidden gems in unexpected places, whether that was a high quality jacket at a secondhand shop or a great stack of books picked up for a quarter at a garage sale. He wasn't one to chase the latest trends or spend frivolously. Instead, he found joy in making most of what was available. I would remember him proudly wearing his thrift store finds, you know, like this hat or some shirt. And it wasn't necessarily about saving money. I think it was about, he just loved finding treasure. He just loved finding something unique that was perfect, and you know, often it was cheap. He was notoriously hard to buy gifts for, but if something caught his eye at the Value Village, he'd found a garment for life. His resourcefulness also showed up in the kitchen. Dad was a sauce man. Whether it was dressing, his hummus, or something entirely of his own, he approached cooking with the same care and attention he did with everything else. He seemed to love getting all the ingredients out and like meticulously like creating what it was he was going to do. Very organized. However, perhaps his most incredible cooking skill was his talent of extending. He was able to take leftovers, that was his wheelhouse. Whatever was left, a little bit of salad dressing or something, and instead of using it, he would take that as a base of something new. Extend that meal into something larger. Yeah, he was very creative in the kitchen. Yeah. Wayne was also guided by a strong sense of ethics. He lived his life in deep integrity, ensuring his actions aligned with his principles. It's a great quality. He never really spoke much about his values or his feelings, but he showed them every day through the way he treated people, the decisions he made, and the friendships that he cultivated. Yeah, one of the most powerful things I came to understand about my father was how he expressed his love. He wasn't someone to wear his heart on his sleeve, but you never doubted that he cared. He showed it in all the little things, the way he supported us, supporting my mother when she was ill, and tirelessly supporting both his children in what must have seemed like foolhardy pursuits of the arts. Yeah, he offered real advice when it was needed or was simply there. His love was present and real. He was a man of service. He believed that love wasn't just something you said, it was something you did. It was an action, and it was a verb. So as we say our final goodbye to Wayne, I know that his love and spirit will stay with us. In his own way, he shaped us and supported us and loved us. And for that, we'll always be grateful. His legacy lives on, not only in beautiful works of art that he created that so many of us have on our walls, but in the generosity he showed to those fortunate enough to know him. Dad, you are our bedrock, our steady foundation. Your memory will forever be etched in our hearts. And I love you, and you'll stay with me always. Thank you for my life. I love you. So I'd like to invite Donna up next to say a few words.
That was beautiful. So I'm Donna. Good luck, Amir. I'm the youngest sibling, I guess you'd say, and I have some things to say about my beautiful brother Wayne too. Probably reflecting a lot of what Michael said so beautifully, but mine's a little shorter. I wrote this when Wayne turned 60, and I had to reflect upon what, how I saw Wayne and who he was to me in my life. And I took a long time, but a lot of those same qualities came up. I said to a man I've known all my life, my brother through my eyes. You've always been someone I admired, and I'm very proud to call my brother. In fact, he was always an enigma to me. I didn't know who he was, but to me, he was mysterious and tall and handsome and good looking and intelligent, and he would never let me in his room. And when I was a young adult, many years ago, I think over 40 years ago, I saw this mug in the store with the stash. And to me, that was a constant. Wayne always, as Michael said, had the stash. And so that's what I based my reflections on. So I was remembering many things and saying he had many faces. So as Michael said too, he was the intellectual. But for me, he was like the big black mustache, the sideburns, the long hair. And I loved the tweed jacket and the pipe. There was the pipe time period, which to me, he looked so cool. And I thought, oh, he's going to be a professor or something. He's great. The clothier. I used to go downtown to Tip Top Tailor and 8th Avenue Mall when I was working down there. And Wayne was so gracious because I'd go into the store, his little sister, and I'd go and see Wayne, and he'd be busy and he'd come and see me, and he would smile and we'd talk for a minute and I would leave. And I would do that probably every 2 weeks for all the years I lived downtown. And he never once got mad at me and he never once told me, don't do it. So I was appreciative of that. He had, in the basement, before anyone else had what they call a closet organizer now, he had this really cool bedroom in our basement that he and my dad put together. And one wall was cubicles and all his LPs and a spot for his record player and his books and his desk. And on this side, the clothes were hung and there were more cubicles where he had precisely folded shirts and sweaters of every color and every style and every material. And I remember I really coveted an alpaca sweater. Well, this room was his sanctuary. I mean, this is where he really lived and we weren't allowed in there. It was really quite funny. I remember him as the musician with, again, the mustache, his 12-string guitar, his wall of LPs, which also included the Beatles and Moody Blues and Elton John, you know, all those classic favorites. And I would sit outside his room and listen to the music because he wouldn't let me in. He was an employee with the government for a very long time with the black mustache, always the constant. But I remember his humility because one time I phoned him in Edmonton and I got a secretary. And I went, Wayne has a secretary? And I asked her, I said, well, what does Wayne do? Like, does he have a title? And she comes up with this long, he's the Western Regional Manager of Public Works for the Government of Canada. And I'm like, what? You know, I never knew. I mean, so for years, he was, you know, well thought of, well respected, very, you know, important person in the government, but you would never hear him speak of it. He was just so quiet and humble all the time. Of course, there's the artist of which we spoke. He took up art at age 40, I think. It's somewhere, I can't remember, but I had already dabbled in art. And when Wayne took up art and I saw his precision and his patience and his ability to do the watercolor over and over and over again until he perfected it, I gave up art. No, but he was magnificent, the way he could capture things. And I have a particular painting from hometown Dunnville, Ontario that he did, hanging on the wall that I treasure. So he was very, very talented as an artist as well. And I was always so happy that he was able to, you know, because he was so quiet and solid and dependable, to see him have this creative side come out. I think that was beautiful. The husband and dad with the great black mustache with a little bit of gray in it. He loved you, Kristen, Carrie, Michael. He just loved you to bits. And as you said, he wasn't very demonstrative, but his style of love was in that being there and being that support system and always providing. So, and my own experience was when I was young, he took me aside and offered me money if I wanted to go to school, you know, and then later in my life, he wanted to make sure I had enough money to pay my mortgage. And, you know, he would just step up and quietly do things like that. And he was just always there. The thrift shopper. Now, Wayne and I, we called it Le Boutique, but whenever we came to visit, Wayne and I would go off to the thrift store and see what we could find. So that was one of the joys we had together. And then he became the retiree with gray highlights in the mustache, and a fit and firm one pack that he was very proud of after exercising. His daily trips to the gym, and he would often go to art classes with, you know, famous artists and spend a weekend learning his craft and honing that. And then, of course, visiting on the coast to family. And then as a brother, his great black mustache always there, supportive, concerned, serious and caring, a constant. I always knew he was there, you know, even if I didn't see him, he was, you know, you could turn to Wayne and he'd be there. So as the years go by and we journey through the maze of life and its changing scenery, I'm so appreciative that you have been a constant in the tapestry of my life. And I know you're here, Wayne, and we love you. One last story is when I got married again. He was gonna give me away at my wedding. And he came to me and he says, can I wear my tweed jacket and my Snoopy tie? And I said, of course. So that was a beautiful moment too. Anthony, thank you.
Thanks, Donna. That was beautiful. I'll invite Sarah up to read Sharon's tribute. Sharon is my mom's sister who couldn't make it, but she is on the Zoom. So Sarah will read Sharon's remarks.
Sharon's remarks, memories of Wayne. Today, everyone has come together to remember Wayne. He had a quiet manner and unwavering support for family. Mom and Dad enjoyed the many visits made to Sundown. Wayne quietly slipped away to take photos, explore real estate, and allow time for the Andruski clan to visit. Each of us have memories of time with Wayne. I am so fortunate to have had 2 years, 1972 to 1974, with Carrie and Wayne at UBC. I was adjusting to Vancouver, the music department, and roommates, and quite frankly, would not have succeeded without having the halls on campus. Carrie always had pumpkin cookies or a nutritiously enriched version of cookies freshly baked in the kitchen at their apartment in Gage. The cookies were stored in the cutest crockery container. I came over frequently for a cup of coffee and those cookies. To this day, I feel comfort when I have homemade cookies. My fondest memories were of Wayne and his car Abigail, with her majestic form and stamina. Abigail had a breakdown the first summer Wayne brought her out to Salmon Arm. With repairs, she was soon back on the road and served everyone for several more years. Abigail had to pass inspection to be driven in Vancouver. She failed her first try because she had a rust hole in the floor behind the driver. Resourceful Wayne found a heavy metal plate, covered the hole, and voila, passed the test. Abigail, with Wayne at the wheel, took us to the grocery store every few weeks. We all filled our bags and appreciated how large Abigail really was. When I finished my degree in 1976, I flew to Ottawa to visit Carrie and Wayne. They had purchased a sweet little house and hadn't been in it for long. Renovations involved labor. Wayne removed the fireplace front, had carpets changed, and had the house repainted when Mom and Dad came out. I loved my visit because the garden had been overtaken with dandelions. There isn't a more satisfying project to do when your hosts are at work. Suntan and fitness built into the activity. It was the perfect holiday after a draining degree. Carrie and Wayne had another sweet little house when they moved to Edmonton. The cookie jar was there too. And a cozy recreation room downstairs. I remember listening to Wayne play acoustic guitar beautifully. Robbie, Lauren, and I have several of Wayne's watercolors. He was inspirational in getting me started in painting. He picked up large sheets of watercolor paper and delivered them here in Nanaimo. It was an act of kindness that sustained my desire to paint. I am just now finishing the last package of paper. We regret that we are not with you today in Edmonton and pass our love to you all, particularly Carrie, Michael, and Kristen. May today's gathering help to bring peace to you.
Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you, Sharon. And Sarah. I'm gonna read Robin's remarks. Robin is my mom's brother and is also on the Zoom. Wayne was like a brother to me, always looking out for what was best, with lots of hiking over the years and conversation. The Englishman River hike at Qualicum was one of my favorite hikes, with huge waterfalls and old growth forests. Wayne also enjoyed hiking Piper's Lagoon in Nanaimo near Dad and Mom's place. He took Michael and Kristen to the lagoon when the tide came in, filling up the lagoon while we all watched Michael and Kristen surf the incoming waves. We will miss you, brother. Robin.
Then pause there for lunch and carry on after.
Yeah. It'll be another 8 minutes, so maybe,
Yeah, or we can.
yeah, sure. why not?
All right, I'm back again. This time I'm Evelyn, Harry's other sister. The first time I met Wayne Hall was the summer I was turning 13. He was the first serious boyfriend to be welcomed into our conservative household, and the excitement was palpable. I remember the first observation I made when Carrie and Wayne walked up the stairs from the breezeway entrance of our Salmon Arm home. It wasn't just Wayne that I remember, but instead what I could see in my sister's face. She was beaming, glowing. Actually, they both were. Even a soon-to-be minted teen, it was obvious that love was in the air. I, of course, also remember thinking that Wayne was very handsome. Being good-looking was, after all, an undeniable piece of who Wayne was right through to the end of his years. Carrie would speak to this fact often, and rightfully so. On that first day, though, I remember how beautiful both Wayne and my eldest sister looked together as they stood side by side. My adolescent brain imagined that this was the stuff of movies. In those initial moments, as introductions were made, excitement filled the kitchen. Mom was extra animated. Dad was up off his chair with hand extended. I was, for once in my life, briefly rendered to being a silent observer, drinking in this new addition to our family's story. Their first visit home created multiple core memories for me. I recall sitting on our stairwell, watching and listening as Carrie and Wayne played guitar together in our music room. I thought it was terribly romantic that they went canoeing, Wayne making sure that life jackets were packed and hats were worn to protect from the sun before they left the house. They also went for a hike somewhere, maybe Sunnybray area? I don't remember exactly, but I do recall that they had matching rain jackets. I wondered if one day I might also find someone who looked at me like Wayne looked at my sister. Our mom and dad loved Wayne like a son. This was in part because they could see how kind and caring he was to their daughter. It was also in part because helping others was one of Wayne's love languages. This value fit perfectly with our own Ukrainian heritage. Wayne would always help out with repairs and cleaning during every visit, and this was always deeply appreciated by our folks. Despite our polar opposite dispositions, Wayne and I formed our own special bond over the years. He was an introvert. I am an extrovert. He was reserved and analyzed all decisions in order to be certain the outcomes would land in a place of common sense. I, too, was one to carefully think through my decisions, the difference being that I did so after I had executed them. I always felt Wayne accepted our personality polarities unconditionally. One example is that Wayne, who was a serious man, seemed to be okay with how I tend to look for humor in all things, even the most dire. There's nothing I love more than to hear loved ones laughing, and it was a special pleasure when it was Wayne who shared in my joy of humor. His laugh was quiet, more of a low chuckle, really, but I always knew I had hit pay dirt in the funny bone department when Wayne would place his right hand over his solar plexus and slap his left hand over the top of that. The auditory chuckle never increased in volume, but the hand gesture told me that this was, for my dear brother-in-law, a big belly laugh moment. There was actually one time when I heard Wayne laugh right out loud, the event becoming one of those stories we retold annually. It was a tradition that we played charades during Christmas holidays at Mom and Dad's. In this instance, Dad was up. Our dad was good at a lot of things. Charades was not one of them. Dad stood in front of us and repeatedly offered a singular face gesture that involved pursing his lips together. He offered no other clues. We were howling with laughter when suddenly Wayne blurted, "Sewer rat?" If you could have seen Dad's face, you'd know why this became a family story to treasure. Perplexed, Dad stopped, looked at Wayne with dismay and indignity, and said, "Sewer rat? No, no, it's egg foo young." Dad then soldiered on, continuing to purse his lips while saying "foo, foo, foo" out loud. How could we have possibly missed this clue? We all lost it, including Wayne, clasping his hands over his solar plexus. But this time the laughter was out loud. I still feel the joy bubbling up in me when I take myself back to that special moment. And perhaps needless to say, in our home, Egg Foo Young was forevermore referred to as sewer rat. When I was in grade 10, so age 16, I was invited to partake in a Canadian citizenship ceremony. It was something I had won through 4-H, and I was somehow able to finagle an extra overnighter at Carrie and Wayne's following the event. I still remember their cozy brownstone home in Ottawa and how hopelessly, recklessly grown up I felt as I arrived at their doorstep by taxi. So the joke of this visit, because there's always got to be something funny to remember, was that before leaving for the trip, Mom had made a lovely chicken dinner. Then, while staying overnight with delegates in Vancouver, I was served a lovely chicken dinner. The flight across Canada was during those times when meals were included. You guessed it, a lovely chicken dinner was served. Following the citizenship ceremony, a banquet featuring, chicken. When I arrived at their Ottawa home, Carrie opened the door and Wayne came out from the kitchen. "I hope you're hungry," he said. "I've just pulled a roast chicken out of the oven." After I got them up to speed and we all had a good giggle, I can honestly say the dinner was truly lovely. During future visits, no matter what was being served, Wayne would sometimes seek me out after the meal to quietly offer "tasted like chicken." It became our own inside joke for many years. Carrie and Wayne also opened their home to me in Edmonton for 2 weeks during the spring that Michael was born. It was a busy time for them, what with Wayne working full-time, a house to run, and a glorious newborn to tend to. I was a UBC student at the time, but had landed a 3-month job with 4-H Alberta doing summer camps. The 10 days of work training was held downtown at an Edmonton government building. And so I would hitch a ride to work with Wayne every morning. Poor guy. I talked his ear off and he had no choice but to listen. Even on those morning commutes though, I tried to see if I could get him to laugh. While his hands remained at 10 and 2, that is to say no lifting of his hands from the steering wheel to place them on his solar plexus, I would know I was making him giggle on the inside when he'd freely allow the corner of his mouth to turn up on one side in a subtle smirk. This was another display of Wayne's belly laugh repertoire. If you knew him well, you can close your eyes right now and conjure him doing this. On occasion, Wayne would also offer a quiet joke or two of his own. For example, on their first meeting of Barry, my husband, Carrie and Wayne would meet us at a cafe in Burnaby. The boys went up to place the order, and when they returned to the table, Carrie asked Wayne what he had selected for her. That wry little smirk of his showed up on his face, and he said, "I got you the lamb sandwich. Thought you'd get a kick out of that. It was Easter long weekend."
Yeah.
Those of us here know that Wayne was a gentle, caring, responsible, special human. He may have walked this earth quietly, but his footsteps have left a deep and lasting impression on our hearts. To Carrie, Michael, Kristen, Donna, Dave, and family, please know that I loved your husband, brother, father, and uncle very much. He was surely the kindest brother-in-law a girl could have ever asked for.
Great. Well, I think, thank you, Sarah and Ev, that was beautiful. I think lunch is gonna be served imminently, so we'll just put a pause in the programming for now and, it will take about half an hour to eat. And if anyone wants to think of something that they'd like to, after lunch, we have a couple more things to get through, but then if folks wanted to say something, yeah, we did. Enjoy your lunch. I'll throw some music on. Thanks very much.
This is the recording, so you guys can chat and whatnot if you'd like.
Okay.
Let's wait for Rowan. Okay, go on this way. Come back.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe you made that. Incredible. It's a great shirt. I'd wear that today.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's such a great shot.
All right. Hope everyone enjoyed their lunch. Thanks again, and thanks to the folks on Zoom who didn't get lunch. Who endured almost an hour of silence. So thank you. Next, I wanted to invite up Donna, who will be reading a short story that my mom Carrie wrote about specifically about this painting here. I don't know if everyone can see it. It's a watercolor. So Sailing Away is what it's called. It's one of my father's paintings. So I'd like to invite Donna up to read my mom's story.
So, Sailing Away. And this is obviously Carrie's to Wayne and to others. When you were still painting watercolor scenes, the ones with cheeky orange and turquoise aspens at Canmore, the indigo and emerald mountains at Kananaskis, or the prairie snow scenes that capture our sunny winter days with their shadows of amethyst and lilac, you also did a painting of Ron. You didn't usually do people in painting, so this was a new endeavor. Ron was a work colleague, and you both enjoyed painting. One day, Ron invited us to visit him at the lake cottage to paint on plain air, which I didn't know means outside. The conditions were not ideal for painting outdoors as the sun dried the watercolors too quickly and the wind blew the plastic water cups over and whipped the paper into the yard. Ron said, "Never mind the painting. It's a perfect day for sailing." He wanted to demonstrate how well his sailboat worked. It was a one-person vessel he had built. Its small sail could carry him across the lake at a leisurely clip while he sat back and enjoyed the ride. When he slipped into his boat and pushed off, you photographed the scene. Ron had his back to us as he left the shore. His beige Tilly hat was anchored securely to his head with a tight knot under his chin. His windbreaker billowed behind him. Although we knew Ron was unwell, it turns out he was sicker than we thought, and he died later that year. After Ron passed, you did a painting of that day. From your photograph, you created magic. The sail glowed as the sun shone through. The waves sparkled with little spritzes of light on their crests. You painted Ron at peace, determined, heading to the far shore, and then donated the art piece to the University Hospital, where Ron had been in hospice care for a short time. You titled it Sailing Away. It has a powerful memorial. After you retired, you continued painting, but switching to acrylics. You took painting workshops bought art you admired, and produced many lovely compositions. And then, over several years, you stopped painting. You lost interest. You were no longer motivated to paint or do much of anything. You skipped going to the gym. Found it a major effort to go for a walk. Didn't laugh or smile anymore. Spoke so softly I could barely hear you. You were fading away into invisibility, oblivion. You seemed to be leaving, sailing away like Ron. At the seniors clinic, a specialist in gerontology conducted a thorough half-day assessment, including with a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. The only signs we had known associated Parkinson's were tremors and mobility issues like Michael Fox had presented. Since you had shown none of these, this diagnosis came as a shock. Once we learned about other symptoms, the diagnosis explained much. Loss of smell, shuffled walking, balance problems, slow gait, apathy, fatigue, loss of weight, decline in strength, bent over posture, vision problems, unexplained shoulder and back pain, and difficulty retrieving words. We had thought the latter was just part of normal aging. Both of us had often asked, "What day is it today?" Well, who wouldn't ask that when you don't have a schedule and aren't going in? Much of this we thought was getting old, although I felt you seemed far older than others of your age. But it wasn't just aging. It was predominantly a lack of dopamine, a neurotransmitter in the brain cells that coordinate the body's muscles and movement. By the time people are diagnosed with Parkinson's, up to 70% of the dopamine-producing cells are damaged or have died. Dopamine also gives us our motivation, our get-up-and-go attitude. Noticeably, you no longer laughed or smiled, even if my jokes were hilarious, or at least I thought so. That was because you were unable to make enough dopamine, which affected the muscles in your face. Once you were on medication, I saw you laugh and smile again, and that wee change brought me such great joy. We both knew you would have to work hard at keeping mobile. I honored your independence, although I just wanted to fix things for you. We did things more slowly. I waited for you to process conversations or instructions. I accompanied you to appointments to help in translation if needed. You were still capable of doing so much, and I am grateful you continued to try without complaint. I wanted the colors to come back into your life for as long as you could make that happen. I wanted you to apply a brush load of cobalt blue and lemon yellow, and maybe even a stroke of scarlet lake or opera pink in your daily activities. Because we had had a long relationship, we had an interesting and intuitive communication protocol. One day you were trying to find a TV program. Your motor skills and declining memory were making it difficult for you to use that remote control. You could not remember the name of the show you liked, but you described it as the one with the castle. I pondered for a bit until it dawned on me you were searching for Downton Abbey, a series you watched many times over. I think you may have memorized some of the episodes, or at least some of Violet's cryptic commentary. You were always there for me, Michael and Kristen, and when yourself were frail and in decline, you never complained. Well, almost never. When your driver's license was not renewed, you were incredulous and were not happy about that, not a bit, because you see, you were determined to do everything yourself. Giving up driving was one of the hardest moments of your health situation. You had always been a good driver, but a nervous passenger. When we made trips to Vancouver Island, you would often drive all the way to Nanaimo, catching the late ferry to get there in one day. When I eventually became the designated driver, you, as a passenger, still applied the brakes and braced against the dashboard. You often panicked, shouting, "Watch out," which was usually because of your novel perspective as a passenger. Not that I was a bad driver. We would have celebrated our 52nd anniversary this year, probably by watching a couple of episodes of Frasier on TV while enjoying royal pizza. We would have had your favorite dessert, carrot cake with cream cheese icing. Then later in the evening, when I would typically ask, "Would you like an ice cream cone?" you would say, "Oh yeah." Wayne, I am forever grateful for having you in my life and for all the adventures and experiences we shared. The best becoming parents of these two amazing, talented, and loving children. You always supported me in any decisions I made and undertakings I wished to pursue. For that, I have always been appreciative. Today, we are here with family, friends, relatives, and neighbors to celebrate your life and your beautiful soul. We thank you for your kindness and generosity. And now we say adieu, my love. We will remember you as a loving, gentle man, sailing away to the next phase of your life. Rest in peace. And Carrie wants to thank everyone, family, friends, relations, and neighbors for being here today to honor Wayne. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Killed it. Okay, so that's the end of our prepared commentary. I guess I would like to open up the floor to anyone else that had something they'd like to say. Cledwin, if you'd like to join. Cledwin is our very good family friend and neighbor. Edmonton. Mike.
Thanks. I'm Edmund. That's my wife Diane, and we've been neighbors to Wayne and Kerry for 37 years. We started off as neighbors, then we graduated as friends, very close friends, and then we became family. You know, although this is a joyous occasion, it's also sad because we're saying goodbye to a very close friend, brother, family. Just wrote a few words here that I'd like to have. Yeah, we've been neighbors to Wayne and Kerry for 37 years. Who could ask for better neighbors? Over the years, we became quite close, trusting each other and looking after each other's homes when we were on vacation and otherwise. Wayne, as you know, was very quiet. That was his personality, which we accepted readily. The other sides of Wayne, which we loved, were his intelligence, his wit, and his willingness to help others. Example, we were painting a condo and he volunteered to help Diane with the painting since I don't paint, okay? It took about 3 days, and what a wonderful job he did. I guess nobody knew that he painted, but he did. And he taught Diane a lot about painting as well. Over the years, Wayne and I did a lot of bike riding in the river valleys. And he knew the bike trails like the back of his hand. And I guess that's where his geography training came in, right? He had a remarkable memory. Wayne, a loving family man and friend, will forever be missed. His memory will live on forever with the wonderful paintings, our treasures that adorn our home. Wayne, we will miss your smiling face, your wit and intelligence. From your friends, Diane and Cledwin. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Cledwin. That was beautiful. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say? If not, we also have a guest book, which if people were more comfortable leaving words, that is definitely an option. Yeah, so I suppose that brings us to the end of our remarks. What I was thinking we could do is we could just, because we've had this opportunity to hear these stories and to just, you know, remind us of who my father was, I thought we could just take a moment of silence and in our own way remember Wayne. So if you'd like to join me for 1 minute, bring a memory to mind and Thank you. Great father. Oh. So to conclude, we have a bunch of prints of some of Dad's work, and you're all welcome to take one, on your way out. There's a bunch of different paintings he's done over the years. This is a memento of this, time together. And also, my mom has, through the city of Edmonton, had a memorial tree planted, not far from where I grew up. And if you're interested, I'll send out to the group email a GPS location. If you ever want, you can go swing by, and there's a beautiful little plaque there, and an Ohio Buckeye tree, which is slightly taller than me, but hopefully will grow into a big, beautiful tree over the years. So that was a really beautiful thing you did, Mom. Thanks. Yeah, so I think that that about does it. Again, there's a guest book there if people want to say something, feel free to mingle.
And also, we love Werther's candies. Absolutely love them. Sometimes they eat them for a meal and some different. There are some Werther's in the jar there, so I'll just send them out.
Right. Werther's Originals. Yeah, so again, thank you all for coming. It really means a lot that you would come here and remember my father.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thanks.